I hate that shit. Just ended for no reason other than to be annoying. Stream ended for no reason, don't know why. Reason, don't. Sorry, everybody. Just randomly ended for some dumbass reason. What the? Ended for no reason. I don't know what happened, but it pissed me off. I looked down for a second and it just ended. So, to anybody who was watching beforehand, I am sorry. But PlayStation's dumb. Raiden can fuck up Vergil on the side. It depends. Doubt that seriously, but depends. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe, maybe. Maybe, maybe. Maybe, maybe. Maybe. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Depends. Vergil has things in his kit that Raiden does not. So that's debatable, man. Debatable. You would have to put Vergil from Devil May Cry 5 in a Mortal Kombat game to see if he would win. And I'm putting all my money on Vergil. For many reasons. Many reasons. Let's see. Hold on. Hold on. I'm trying to put something in the chat, but because I want it to show all messages, but for some reason it still likes to block stuff. So blame it on that. So yeah, I don't know why, but yeah. I think it's just because it's stupid. It's freaking no matter how many times I change it to show all messages, it's still just because of cuss words or something. It's still stupid. Plus, if I'm being honest, Raiden, yes, he's an Elder God. Yes, he has control over lightning. But, to be honest, if we're going to talk about who would win in a fight, let's be honest, Vergil has more things going for him than Raiden does. He has a speed advantage, a strength advantage, if we're talking about DMC5 Vergil. And he has multiple weapon advantages. And let's be real here. Vergil can attack from a distance and can get up close. And he's more likely to study his opponent, even though he's freaking lost to Dante a couple times. Let's not forget DMC3 Vergil, which is a prequel, cut the boss, one of the first bosses, in half. If you're a first-time player, you're gonna spend a long time trying to fight that thing, and it'll take you maybe an hour or two. And he cut it in half like it was nothing. So you have that you have to consider. Then let's go even more freaking go off of a lot of other things. But I don't know. I think it's an in-between thing. I hate, though, that PlayStation ended the freaking stream for me, though. It pisses me off. It ended it earlier. So sorry to anybody. And also, if I'm being honest, Raiden really doesn't have too many advantages against Vergil that really you can think of. Raiden's got thicker ass than Vergil. Okay, fine, fair enough. But does he have motivation? He doesn't have Vergil's motivation. And thinking about Vergil's moveset in its entirety, I think there's not many chances for Raiden to really win. Vergil has multiple things going for him. Especially DMC5 Vergil. One, he has a massive power advantage due to the Clyflod fruit, which he was already powerful as it was before, but he's twice as powerful now, thinking to consider that the Clyflod fruit was partially is why Mundus became king of the underworld. It's how he got so much power. But also thinking to consider that Vergil is the half-blood son of a demon who is already extremely powerful. Coupling that with what his already existing power, Raiden doesn't stand much of a chance. Yeah, he has lightning and stuff, but Vergil can really dodge between space and time. He has multiple attacks going for him that literally Raiden would not be able to dodge. He has Judgment Cut, he has Void Cut. I'm trying to think. Raiden wouldn't stand much of a chance against Vergil then. if you think to consider, yeah, like you said, Raiden got a better, but really, in a straight up 1-to-1 fight, Vergil would trample Raiden for multiple reasons. Because of, we're talking about DMC5 Vergil, then it's an easy win in all categories. Speed, weapons, and all that. Now, if we wind the clock back maybe to DMC3 Vergil, if we're going to, if we're going to at least give him a chance, I'll give Raiden an actual chance here. If it was, when it comes down to it, okay, maybe Raiden would stand more of a chance against DMC3 Vergil, because he's young and experienced. But Vergil beat Berezin the Samurai. That one's in between because I think because of Vergil's katana, Yamato, and his swordsmanship, that would be an in-between fight. For multiple reasons. I think the only thing that sets that back is Vergil being... What gives Vergil mostly an edge is just, on that fight, is just multiple things. His weapon and how he uses it, his fighting style, and him being not human completely. Because if we're going off of, the games, Dante and Vergil both have a regenerative healing factor. And going off of DMC3, the ending fight, Vergil only got minorly incapacitated by Dante's slice. He was cut in half in a way, but healed like that. The way Dante swung, that would have took him half of his waist off, but it healed almost immediately. So, but it just minorly incapacitated him. And he was already exhausted by that point when he fought Moondist, and that's why, he became, Nello Angelo. So, if we're talking about specifics and multiple, depending on the fight, Vergil is a pretty OP character regardless. I think, doesn't matter what, him and Dante both have, strengths and weaknesses. But, that's just me talking here, just specifically. But I just love playing as Vergil, so it's Vergil and Dante are both awesome, so even if I have some gripes about the gameplay, I wish they would have gave him his classic Devil Trigger, which was a missed opportunity because there's concept art for it, but I digress. I think if we're going to go down the route specifically of, characters fighting one another and stuff, I think Vergil would probably triumph over most of any Mortal Kombat character. Most definitely. I think depending on the situation, I think very few could give him a run for his money. I think, and not even the Mortal Kombat characters, just many characters in general, I think it really depends. I think now Superman, I think that's the only character I could think, Vergil wouldn't, I take that back, because Superman's weak to magic, and technically demonic magic is still magic, so that's an in-between. That's an in-between fight. But yeah. But that's just me. That's just me rambling. Me rambling. Sorry for the rambles. I don't know, but yeah, if hopefully, that I'm just kind of going off of the logic and the specifics, at least. I don't know if anybody's watching, but yeah. It just depends on setting, fight, and what version we're talking about. At least on a fighting front. Like, I'm not casting shade on other characters. I just, it's just my personal opinions. But hey, everybody got their opinions. Now I'm going to shut up now. um. But yeah. Hold on a second. I see. Raiden killed Palolt. Yeah, but I don't know. It's a really difficult fight to say the least because you have to think about more specifics on some things. Because yeah, Raiden's killed a lot of different people that are pretty powerful, and he is. Uh, it's just more eh. And he killed Sindora. Yeah, but the difference is with their movesets, do any of them have the classifications and the power set that Vergil has? Not to mention, if really the fight between Dante and Vergil technically ended in a draw. If we're going off specifics. Yeah. I think because if we're going off specifics, their power sets are a little bit different. If we're being honest, like Vergil, his dodging is like he can dodge between space and time. he can basically, he can do so much. I think, yeah, the soundtrack hits balls. Exactly. Most definitely. The Light is one of my favorites. Speaking of Vergil, I actually at some point need to do a print of him for this game. I think at some point, because I've painted Dante, I've painted or painting Nero. I think Vergil's probably the next one up that I need to do a painting of him. Yeah, most definitely. I think the only downside to Vergil's gameplay in 5, and one of my biggest complaints with FE, which I don't, even though I don't have it, do you play the other games? Oh yeah, fuck yeah, I definitely play the other games. I have all of them. The only one I don't have is Definitive Edition for the remake. So, I think the only complaint I have is, you know, just... Yeah, DMC5 is most of the best. Pretty much, yeah. I think if I was doing SE though, I think there's a lot of things I would change, and there's a lot of things I would make better. Because the reason why I didn't even get SE is mainly because I wasn't gonna pay for a character that I could get for $5, and the only thing I would be getting out of it is one new mode, and maybe some new prettier graphics. That's it. And I thought, I think if I was making DMC5 SC, I would take a lot of liberties. The first and obvious one is we are going to have more playable characters, but we're going to do it better than fucking Devil May Cry 4. That's the first and obvious one. I think what they could have done is went along with a mission structure that what we already had. But, so like, we're gonna, immediately, the first thing we're doing is we're changing, I would change, what I would change first is, conduct DMC about it. Yeah, well, I know the combat's amazing. No, what I'd change is just adding, like, more enemies and more levels. Because one of the complaints that I had with 5 is something that you can fix with Special Edition. Was like, you know, after a certain point, the Clifod, you know, being in these levels gets annoying. You know, it's like, there's not many puzzles, there's not many stuff like that. And probably kind of agree that really I would like maybe some more puzzles. I wouldn't like, because I'm a brain teaser kid. I like, you know, minor puzzles. Like, that's what I liked about DMC3 and Devil May Cry 1. There's a mixture of everything that checked off my boxes. Like, stylish combat, puzzles, great environments, you know, stuff that makes you think. Yeah, but if you want to have fun, you can play Bayonetta. Oh, I've played Bayonetta. I just can't play the other two, Bayonetta 2 and 3, because they're on Switch, and I don't have a Switch. But I've played Bayonetta, trust me. It's okay. I love the combat in that. It's tricky as hell, but I mainly have a problem with the freaking camera. I don't like the fixed camera. It's the same problem I have with God of War 3 or in some of the old God of War games. The camera is so zoomed out that it obscures the character more for me, and the controls are too button mashy, where the enemies will, like, they'll swarm you and attack you from all directions, so you can't really, you know, strategize. And that was like one of my biggest things that I did not like about, agreed. Yeah, that's like what I did not like about those games. Like, now granted, like, some people like the camera. I personally did not. My thing with DMC5 was that everything was perfect. I think the problem I had was Special Edition felt rushed. I think, yeah, I haven't played God of War. Well, you're all good there. I've streamed it on the channel, but God of War 3 got freaking, you know, age restricted, so I just took down those streams. One of the more severe ones, because of nudity and stuff like that. So I was kind of like, yeah, I'm just not. But no, I think, in regards to, you know, how I change SE, is basically, you can play Vergil's thing like this, but then you would also you could play it with his own separate campaign. And that's something I thought was a missed opportunity, was like, why not have Vergil have his own campaign with his own missions, and basically also could give us hints for, like, DMC remakes. It would make the most sense, and it also could connect the gaps better and explain some stuff of how and why he basically just learned about this Tripod fruit thing and stuff like that. Yeah, fuck Capcom. I wouldn't say that, but yeah, I guess. I'm in between on Capcom. I think some decisions, I know that a lot of people would say that, you know, what's the word? I think a lot of people are mad about some things, which, granted, fine, fair. Sometimes Capcom makes some shitty decisions. For Christ's sake, Devil May Cry 2 was the biggest freaking shitty decision. Difference is, it did bring us one of my, a few good characters. Lucia was a good one, even if they were rehashing the Trish plotline just a smidge, but I think the adoptive demon angle could have worked better. They should make a DMC3 remake. Agreed. Agreed. I think something with how they could handle that is, take the founding elements, because I love the RE remakes, but I'm sick of them, because they need to remake other games that they've done, and I'm not just focused so much in RE, because if you're gonna make sequels to those games as well, it's kind of like, it's fucking pointless. Personally, in my eyes, at least. I think with DMC3, I think the founding elements that they should keep is like have it to where you can switch between two styles at once, because it is a remake, and I still think it could. I want it to still feel tricky and not just give Dante, the prequel Dante, all his styles in one go. Wait and give that to him with you basically do things on different difficulties, and you play the game multiple times. You can unlock freestyle, which is basically you unlock all the, you can play all the with all the styles and all that jazz, and that's how you can play it. I think that would be a better way for you to play the game and stuff like that. I think that's what works, at least in my eyes. Well, thanks, man, for subbing. That's I appreciate it, man. You know what? One for you as well. But yeah, like, I agree. Like, a DMC3 remake, be awesome, be amazing. I think it'd be perfect. But I also would think that there's untapped potential with remaking DMC2, because I think that game is one of the games that I think a lot of people hate, which is granted. But it has the potential to be better than what it was. I think remaking it, making it better, I think, because granted, DMC2 had one of a lot of people's favorite looks for Dante, which was that more darker, gothier look. And granted, that's also what helped inspire the mixed bag of how he was in the Devil May Cry anime, which is technically, I think you could still watch it on a playlist on YouTube. Hopefully, if it's not copyright strikes, but that's kind of how he was. He was still kind of goofy and stuff, but he was kind of closed off and not as, what's it called? So it's like an in-between gap. And I guess, like, that's why in DMC2, because after what happened with Vergil and DMC1, I guess that kind of, it's like a connect the dots. But yeah, like Devil May Cry is probably one of my favorite games, not just combat-wise, but like story-wise. I just have a big problem with how SE for this game was handled, because I think personally there's so much untapped potential. Like, Vergil's moveset's great in this game. His movement's perfect. I think the problem I have with it is that there's some stuff I felt they missed opportunities to expand on. I think the biggest example is his weapons. I think Yamato's fine as is. Beowulf, I don't know how he managed to get it back, but we'll roll with it. Because it could explain the way Urizen's gauntlets are on his hands and stuff. Maybe he found it in the underworld or something. Dante lost it on a mission, we'll go with that. But Phantom Edge is just copying what he already had, and I thought that could have, like, if you gave him a unique weapon that replaces the Force Edge, but more powerful and it's more his own thing. Maybe he got it in the underworld, and you can expand on that in his own campaign and say he fought a demon in the underworld while he was making his way through, and when the events of DMC4 happened, that's how he got out of the underworld. He bought his time, and then blah blah blah. But it's never partially explained why he's so drained. But then you think about it, and it's like, well, after the Mundus incident where he was, like, imprisoned for God knows how long, of course he would be, like, close to being drained, I think. But I think he would need more of a nudge. I think that's where I would run in with the campaign, barring some good elements that I thought... I know DMC Remake gets a lot of shit, granted in every sense of the word, but it still at least had the balls to give Vergil his own campaign. He gave him his own campaign. They had the balls to do that. Granted, it's not perfect, but it still is kind of giving him his own arc and his own story and stuff. And I think if it was up to me and I was making the doing SD, I would not only pull from because Hiaraki and Suno already liked the remake a little bit. Now, granted, you know, the remake was not fucking perfect, but we can pull elements from that to expand stuff, you know. Yeah, if they had like DMC and I don't know about Sparta to make it. Yeah, they actually they had plans to make a Sparta solo game. I think because there was I think Sparta, there was plans to do that, a Sparta solo game. I just think they scrapped. From I remember correctly, I was trying to remember the reports and stuff, but I think they scrapped it. There was something that happened. I don't remember what. But it got scrapped for. I think there was a reason. I don't remember. I think it was just kind of like what they were gonna put it on probably wasn't gonna work or something. And I think doing a Sparta game, I think, would be cool, but then you run the risk of, Sparta's like the linchpin for the entire series. And you never see him. You hear of him and his legend, but you never see him. And then you run the risk, when if you do him or do his gameplay, you know, making him feel too much like you just kind of run the risk of ruining him. And that's the only time I'll give a Capcom my ear of approval was not doing that, because that kind of, as great as a concept it would be, it still runs that risk of if you fail or fuck up once, not just in gameplay, but in any execution, in any way, shape, or form, you run the risk of staining the reputation any more than what they did with the remake. And I think what the best thing they could do is just remake the older games. Now, don't fuck it up, is the main thing. But also, simply, personally, I think the problem that I have with remaking the older games is the first order of business is do the ones that people like the most, but also don't do the first one. Don't ever touch it. Because the problem with remaking Devil May Cry 1 is it has a lot of that Resident Evil DNA, and you fuck with that, you fuck up everything. And you also run the risk when you try to do the combat for that, it taints things. It, fucks up what made it great in the first place. Even though it's simple, it's designed to be simple, kind of. Now, granted, it would be great to do. It would be amazing. Personally, I'm not saying I'm against the idea of doing it. I just think it's virtually impossible to please everybody when the first one was great. The best two options are remaking Devil May Cry 2 and Devil May Cry 3. Devil May Cry 4 really doesn't need a remake. Personally, I would like there to be one, because I personally despise some of the decisions with Devil May Cry 4. I think, granted, it has a lot of great stuff in it. I think the problems outweigh anything else, because it's a great system, what you had. The problem is the execution and how half-baked it was. Have you ever played Sekiro? And you're going to hate yourself. If you have played Sekiro, because you're going to hate yourself. I had a friend play, like, loan it to me once, and because I was watching him play it, I I maybe played one mission. I never really played it like full on. And don't hate me for like, I just never, I don't think, I think either I played it, maybe. I don't really remember, but I've heard of it, and I think I've tried it once, but I've never fully played it. And if I, and because I know that game's fucking hard. It's like Dark Souls level hard. So, yeah, I've heard of it. I'm not ever probably going to touch it because of like how difficult it is, but yeah, I know what you're talking about because I remember dabbling in it once just because a friend had it. Yeah, it's harder. yeah, most definitely. I'll just say one of the only other problems I have with the Vergil gameplay is there's no, besides World of B, there's no Urizen, dude. Like, he has nothing to represent his Urizen side. And the whole point of the game was saying, you know, like, he split his demon and human half. Well, okay. Well, where's that representation of that? Unless you're trying to count the Sin Devil trigger as representation of that. But I think that doesn't really work. I think how I would have probably done a Vergil campaign is begin it with a first-person version that could hint at a DMC1 remake, or what you could do one better is like basically have it to where it's either it'll begin there, or we can begin it from the point of view of Vergil from DMC3. Yeah, my era of playing hacks and slash games is ended. Yeah, I personally I still play them because I love them to death, but I personally will never stop until there's a DMC. Now I'm only playing RPG games. Yeah, those are pretty fun. I don't play those as much because just it's more of an in-between for me. Cause I love the hack and slash stuff. I always have. It's just been ingrained into me, I think. I love DMC5. It's just a big footnote into why I love these type of games. But I personally just, there's a lot of things that I would have improved with how they handled SE that I think would have been awesome. Like, if I could mod, like, not only mod, but if I could take my ideas and just go to Capcom and say, hey, jackasses, let's do a DMC SE remake. Like, I know you guys worked your butts off, but you could have done better, and here's how. And not only would I freaking go taking the scrapped ideas that what they already had, we're gonna go even further. So we're going to add new levels, new enemies, using the concept art. So basically, how I would handle SE is the first thing I would do is basically keep what made 5 great, which combat, story, and stuff. The other characters, every one of their missions is still connected into this overarching plot. So when you have the only change I would make is that at the beginning of the game, you have the option, instead of playing Nero,
you have the option to play Lady or Trish, one of the two first, and you get a different type of opening, similar to what you get in the Awakening mission. But it's slightly changed, and you get different pathways and stuff like that. Now, how I would change Lady and Trish's gameplay from what you got in DMC4 is in between. I think I would do some heavy alterations for each one. I know that Trish, going through the graphic novel, had Artemis with her when the Urizen edition, or the Urizen thing happened. So obviously, if you play as her, you get the classic Artemis, which you can re-get similar to Rebellion or Sparta when you play as Dante later in the game. But you also can get an upgraded version made by Nico. Yes, we are giving Nico more to do, because besides making Nero's arms, she doesn't do anything. She'll make a new weapon for Lady near the end of the game, which is immediately loaned out to Dante, and basically that's it. And I kind of thought, well, if Nico's whole thing is wanting to be a gunsmith like her grandmother, she could easily do it. Yeah, Capcom wants to milk Resident Evil because the webs love it. Yeah, but for me, I would go to Capcom and be like, Devil May Cry, please, because I think there's so much untapped potential with especially with SE. There was so much, I think. Like, for instance, you know, if you play as, like, in my head, how you would have, if Lady is the walking arsenal, so she's more gun-focused, I would make sure I would have her be very crowd control, very arsenal-based, very, like, it's a mixture of what we had in DMC4, slightly tweaked because she was very clunky in her movement. I want her to feel more kind of like Bayonetta-esque in her movement. I think you could slightly tweak her moveset and also give her more guns besides the bazooka, the regular handgun, and the, what's it called? I would probably give her one of the guns from Devil May Cry 3, which was that rifle thing. I'm trying to remember the name. The Spiral? Was it Spiral? It was something. Basically, later in the game she gets that, because maybe you'll get some new missions in the city, which after you defeat her as Artemis, obviously la-di-da-di-da. I want to play DMC6 before I die. Agreed. Agreed. But I think for Lady, I think something else you could do with her is keep that human aspect of her. And I was thinking, with a Devil Trigger, instead of it just being her, she can throw grenades at the end of it. What if you take something from Arkham? Harley Quinn's Rage Bar. Oh my god, I don't know why they didn't think of this, but it makes the most sense. Basically, she can go into almost berserker rage, and near the end of it, you have the option to throw out a bunch of grenades as a cluster to finish off any enemies that you didn't, take out. And I think that works for Lady's character because because she is human, she's not a demon, but she can basically, you can play on this aspect of her having like this rage bar as like the Devil Trigger. And maybe you can give her some new weapons, like some new guns, like keep some stuff that, worked. I don't know, like you would have to really think about her, like new specific guns made for her. Yeah, how about like they create a new character? Well, the like Nero. Well, the problem with doing that is one, it's extremely difficult because you do that and you're going to piss off the entirety of the fan base. And that's why the DMC remake was so alienating, because it didn't have a lot of the stuff that, what's it called? And not to mention, Nero didn't really originally, if you think about 4, he didn't click with everybody. It's only till DMC5 where he actually clicks, and like his moveset is less, it's a lot more better and a lot more condensed and a lot more actually makes sense compared to, you know, what it was in 4. I think the trick is having a balance. If you want to do a new character, that's great. I don't have any problems with new characters. The problem is the execution. They will love it later. Yeah. It's kind of like Bayonetta 3, how they just randomly threw in Bayonetta having a daughter, and she's just kind of like similar to like Nero, which, I'm sorry, that felt like just like those guys just taking something from DMC, which I kind of felt like I saw like some of the story because I knew I was never going to get a chance to play it because I don't have a Switch. And I honestly was so dumbfounded by why they would do it. But I was just kind of like, eh. I think if we're going to say specifically about like just character-wise, like I don't have a problem with new characters. I just think maybe give the old characters time to truly shine on their own. And that's what DMC SE could have done. Like, where Devil May Cry 4 failed because you're just replaying the same missions over and over with very few defining scenes, I think DMC5 SE could have really triumphed and basically said, okay, not only are we going to give Lady and Trish their own distinct, like, partial missions that are in between gaps of the story, but we'll also give them new enemies to fight that are specifically for them, and bosses. And the first boss for Trish that I came up with is based on concept art, which was a giant puppet horse. Oh my god, it would be perfect. Not only as a reference to DMC1, but also, it would also be interesting because you can kind of have fun with it. If they want to remake for DMC1, they should just give it to Platinum Games. Yeah, but going off of Bayonetta 3, I'm kind of iffy on Platinum at the moment. Like, I think Platinum could do it. It is their original baby. It's just, I'm iffy on it for multiple reasons. Because the execution of how they squandered Bayonetta 3, it kind of turned me off of the idea of them remaking anything because of just what they did with that. I think, if anything, I think DMC1 shouldn't get remade at all. Because I think they should leave that be until if they can find a perfect balance, then fine, they can remake it. But until that time comes, focus on the stuff with more gameplay that can get tweaked and stuff that works. 3 and 2 are the perfect bet. And personally, if it was me, you know, I think DMC5 SE has better potential for a remake because I think they need to fix a lot of things. It's not a bad thing. It felt they rushed it, and it's great on its own in concepts, but it has nothing. It has nothing, and I think that's where I have problems. I have multiple problems. I think having Trish, Lady, Lucia be playable Vergil, a playable Vergil campaign, a multiplayer Bloody Palace, which was a scrapped feature, mind you, which was thought of, that they didn't use, which is very annoying. If they DMC3, I would just give it to Platinum Games. People would love it. Yeah, but I'm still iffy. Just until Platinum can, I don't know. I'm hoping they can redeem themselves, because I'm just kind of still disappointed by the execution of Bayonetta 3. But no, I think a remaking of DMC5 SE needs to be made, because I think it would fix a lot of the problems that I have with it, giving the game more features, not just prettier graphics. I think, how would I say? I think giving a playable Lucia that is basically, that feels more like her own, and also would be modernized compared to her DMC4, not DMC4, DMC2 counterpart, keeping the foundation of her gameplay, but slightly tweaking it, maybe even giving her her own standalone devil arms. You know, that'd be neat. I don't want to turn every character into a variation of Dante, but also, that's another thing I want to fix. Trish. That's another problem I had, especially with DMC as a series. Trish's gameplay has always been recycling Dante's assets, even her guns. Mind you, even her own guns are practically copies of Dante's. Think about that for just a second. Dante's guns in Trish's hands. Her own guns, the only change is the name. They're practically the same guns. Do you realize that that's how stupid that is? I think what I would do to fix that and give Trish her defining moment, and giving her her own character, and giving her own gameplay, is keep some stuff from DMC4. Now, there's a way to recycle assets, but also give it her own style with them. So, obviously we're going to give her Pandora, but we're fixing Pandora to where it actually is a lot more streamlined, a lot more smooth, because that was probably one of a lot of people's favorite devil arms. We're giving her her own sword. I'm kind of tired of Trish getting nothing. Yeah, best Trish combat set in Marvel Capcom 3, yes. But the problem is, I think Trish should get her own, some of her own style of weapons. I think we could give her her own sword. Maybe it could be one of Dante's more older swords, but as you, basically it'll be done, how do I say this? It would be more made for her, which is a fighting game. Yeah, I know, I've played it a little bit, here or there, with a friend of mine at one point. I think the perfect sword for Trish is honestly Alistair. Now, one, it's Dante's first sword. I take that back. It's not his first sword, but it's the first sword or second sword that you get to play around with in DMC1, and it's already lightning and purple lightning based. Maybe when Trish gets a hold of it, she makes it her own. It's just been sitting in one of Dante's storage lockers or something, and giving Trish Alistair makes more sense to me than anything else, because one, it's better fitting for her character. One, it's lightning based, so it's already based around one of her strong suits, and it's also giving her her own. She can make it her own compared to Sparta, which never made sense. Why Dante just gave Trish Sparta in the first place? I just never understood it. It made no sense to me, but maybe in concept writing, it's like him saying, I don't care about power, you have it. You're like a sister, you're like my mom, you look like my mom, blah, 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 whatever. Maybe that's how you can rectify it and say that's why he did it, but she's practically always gotten the hand-me-downs. Her guns are pretty much, even though their names are different, they look exactly like Dante's pistols. And I think this is why I think a DMC5 SE remake would work better, is because you could add so many features and expand on characters in unique ways that didn't get a spotlight. Like, if you think about it, 5 is great, but the characters that are in it, like, you only get to play as Dante, Nero, and V. Lady and Trish don't really get a spotlight. Like, they're in the game, but you don't really get to do anything with them. They're there. That's it. And it kind of sucks. You know, I think that in retrospect, I think that there's potential to where you could have it to where you can expand on... Yeah, V's the worst. Agreed. Agreed. Very heavily agreed. I won't say he's the worst concept-wise. I think he's the worst gameplay-wise. I think, and that's another reason why I would tweak DMC5 SE, is because I think it also gives you a spotlight to re-intellectualize certain characters. The first thing I'd be doing would be fixing V's gameplay. Because I think what the problem with V's gameplay is, in execution, it's terrible. But in concept, it's brilliant. Having him be a more, basically a wizard-like character that, you know, is basically fragile. He uses things to fight for him. It's kind of like with Vergil's Mirage Blades. I think it's kind of in similar facet. The problems with the gameplay as a whole is that there's not enough to it for it to feel, you know, distinct and like you actually can strategize with them. That's where there's a lot of problems, is because it's basically, the whole thing is he's supposed to be weak in concept. That's brilliant. The problem is you have 3. Griffin is ranged, Panther is melee, and practically Nightmare is just your finisher. In concept, Nightmare does not have enough to him. Like, if you upgrade Nightmare to the max, he has barely anything to fight with. And personally, I think that what they could have done is basically, if you remake SE, you can tweak stuff that really a lot of people had problems with. V's gameplay was the biggest hurdle for a lot of people. And in SE, it's worse because the hacks that you would think that could save you really burn you into a fucking ground. Or into the fucking ground. And that's where I think tweaking his gameplay and making it work... Because V... I think what you could do to tweak V is, one, give him more, like, strategy to his gameplay like the other characters. Like, it's not... In concept, it's not bad. Like, the problem is execution and just simply... How do I say this in a nice way? The problem is that V in concept is brilliant, but the problem is the execution. When you think about how you have to fight as V, it's just, it's button mashing. That's all it is. It's really button mashing. And I've played Devil May Cry 5 1,000 times over, and even I can admit it's button mashing. And there's not much strategy to it. Like with Vergil, yeah, sometimes it can be button mashing, but it still can be strategy based. You know, play around with, like, but the problem is Vergil really doesn't have his own set of enemies, which kinda sucks, which would be awesome if he did. It would be brilliant. giving Vergil like his own distinct enemies to fight would be amazing. Oh, hi. Welcome to the stream. Sorry, I'm just talking out of the middle. I wouldn't say a rant, but kind of just, you know, expressing some of my ideas for the game here. But welcome. Hopefully you enjoy. But I think what I'll say when it comes to Venom, when it comes to V, I think the tweaking would more be around perfecting like more strategies for V besides like just dodging and like waiting for the book to charge and your double engaging. And I think what would have been a neater idea, and I know it in concept, I know it's not canon because technically they killed it being Phantom, but it was one of the things that was technically one of the many memories that Vergil, you know, vanquished out of him. I think having V be able to swap out his finisher or finishers would be brilliant. Like the ability to either swap out Nightmare for Phantom or Phantom for Nightmare, or give him more familiars to work with and more strategies, like each one has a specific purpose, and you can kind of swap it in kind of like a kit, would actually work. Because I personally think it makes the most sense, because technically you can do that, like with Nero, I think. Now in execution it probably be a lot to do, but then again, really, V's controller layout says it all. There's really nothing to it. He doesn't have, like, the same amount of, like, strategy as Dante or Vergil or, you know, what was it? Freaking Nero. I think it would be amazing if with V, you can give, like with SE, it fixes the problems that a lot of people had, where you can tweak the gameplay to where, okay, let's say, you know, like something you can do is like Panther can launch an enemy up. Let's say you use Griffin which was a move that I think that was in the boss fight. Maybe you can give this as a new upgrade, where you can have him swoop underneath them, keep them back up in the air, but he also creates a small electric disc underneath the enemy that's boosting them in the air and keeps boosting them, and then you can basically keep them and focus on them, and then, you know, stuff like that. Like, ideas-wise, I just thought, I guess I don't want to sound like I'm ranting, but I just thought a lot about, like, a lot of things with this game, like how I would tweak things, how I would, you know, do certain stuff. I think execution-wise, I guess it would be extremely difficult. I think it would be hard as hell, but hey, you know, it's just, I guess that's just how I think of it. But I'm sorry if I've annoyed anybody, you know, with the ranting or sounding like an idiot. But yeah.
I'm gonna shut up now. Alrighty.
Get lost! Blast!
Um. Ow.
Wreck it up! So, kneel before as
Alright. Okay. Alright. Well, I'm going to end the stream here. I will be streaming again around 9, so hopefully everybody enjoys, or hopefully everybody enjoyed, and thank you for all the comments and blah 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 blah. See you!